analyst is a role that is increasingly becoming more in demand as companies digitally transform their business. In this video, we are going to talk about how to become a data analyst, what are the things you need to know, and where to start from. My name is Abdulkadir Salami. Let's talk about Python. On today's video, let's have some basic introduction of Python. What is Python? Python is a popular programming language. It was created by Guido van Rossum and released in 1991. Python is used for software development. Python is used for web application, data analysis, system scripting, workflow, mathematics, machine learning, and data visualization. Now let's talk about why Python. Python works on different platforms like Windows, Mac, Linux, and so on. Python has a simple syntax similar to the English language. Python has syntax that allow developers to write programs with fewer lines than some other programming language. Python runs on interpreter system, meaning that the code can be executed as soon as it is written. Python can be treated in a procedural way, an object-oriented way, or a functional way. Let's talk about comments in Python. Python has commenting capability for the purpose of in-code documentation. Comments start with a hash, and Python will render the rest of the line as a comment. Python comments. Comments can be used to explain Python codes. Comments can be used to make the code more readable. Comments can be used to prevent execution when testing code. Welcome to your tutorial on Python. Today, let's dive into Python. Let's talk about the basic of Python. Let's deal with some of the variables. Let's talk about how to assign variables. Let's dive into Python and have some basic knowledge on all this. Okay, so now let's talk about Python variable. In Python, variables are created when you assign a value to it. Now, what do I mean by that? Now we have our variable called x is equals to, we have a value called 10. Okay, now enter. We have another variable called y and is equals to, we have a value which is a string value called Abdul. So now this is what it means. Variables are created when you assign a value to it. Now we have a variable which is x and we have a value which is 10. We also have a variable which is y, we have a value which is Abdul. So these values are created into the variable, so that is how Python variable works. Now let's move to the next one. Python has no command for declaring a variable. Now, what is variable? Variables are containers for storing data value. Let's talk about creating variable. A variable is created the moment you first assign a value to it. Now, let's give an example. We have x as a variable is equals to, we have 7. Now we have y as a variable, then we have our value called, let's give it Smith. So now let's print it out. So we have print what? We are printing our x, and also print, we are printing our y. Now let's execute it. Okay, now as you can see, we have our 7 and Smith. Okay, our variable is x and the value we have in our x is 7. Our variable is also y and the value we have in our y is Smith. So just like I said, a variable is created the moment you first assign a value to it. So this is how it works. Variables do not need to be declared when any particular type and can even change type after they are being assigned. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, now let's give an example. Now we have a variable called x for a value called 11. We have the same variable called x for a value called salami, which is a string, right? Now, let's print the type. To do that, we use print. We put our type, okay? And then we open a bracket, we give it our x, okay? Now, let's move to the next one. The same print, okay? We type our type, we open a bracket, and we give it our x. Okay, now what this means right now is that x is of a type called integer. That's for our first x here. Now the second x is of a type called string. So we have a variable x bearing a value called 11 as an integer. Now we have this same variable change with the same variable name but with different value called salami, which is a string. So what this means is that we do not need to declare any particular type. We can even change the type after they've been set. So I have a variable called 11 and I've already changed it here bearing a string called salami. Now executing it now, I have what we call a string. Remember that variable names are case sensitive. Variable names with more than one word can be difficult to read. There are several techniques you can use to make variable names more readable. Number 1, camel case. Each word except the first starts with a capital letter. Number 2, Pascal case. Each word starts with a capital letter. Number 3, snake case. Each word is separated by an underscore character. Okay, let's talk about camel case. Camel case, it means each word except the first starts with a capital letter. Now let's demonstrate that. Now I'm going to create a variable with camel case. So my first name, okay, is equals to Abdul. So this is how to create a variable using camel case, which means each word except the first starts with a capital letter. Now let's move to the next. Let's create a variable for Pascal case. Now to do that, remember Pascal case means each word starts with a capital letter. So I'm going to create a variable called my first name is equals to Abdul. So this is Pascal case. As you can see clearly, it means each word starts with a capital letter. Okay, let's talk about the next one. Let's talk about snake case. Snake case means each word is separated by an underscore character. Okay, let's do that. So my underscore first underscore name is equals to Abdul. Okay, so this is snake case. So this is how you create a variable using snake case. Let's talk about assigning multiple values into Python variable. Python allows you to assign value to multiple variables in one line and make sure that the number of variables matches the number of value, or else you will get an error. Now let's take an example. Okay, right now we have our x, comma, we have our y, comma, and then we have our z, which is equals to a string. We have our double quote here, and we create a string called yam, and we give it a comma, and we move to the next string, we give it rice, and we give it a comma, and we move to the next string, we give it a double quote, and we give it beans. So now, to print this out, we have to use print print is a function. Okay, we are printing our x. Okay, we'll move to the next one, print. We are printing our y. Okay, and we'll move to the next one, print. And we are printing our z. So now let's execute it. This is how you can apply multiple value into a variable. Python allows you to assign values into multiple variables in one line. That is just what we demonstrated right now. Now let's move to the next one. Okay, how to apply a value to multiple variables. So now to do that, we have to create our x is equals to y is equals to z, which is equals to a string, and we have grape as our string. So now let's print. We are going to print our x, print our y, and then print our z. And now let's execute it. So now we have our grape. Unpack a collection. If you have a collection of value in a list or table, Python allows you to extract the value into a variable. This is called unpacking. Now let's practice it. Now for unpack a collection, what we have to do now, let's create a variable. Let's call it fruit for our set, which is equals to okay, we have orange, we give it a comma, we have apple, we give it a comma, and then we have cherry. So now our x, y, z is equals to fruit. Is equals to fruits. So now let's execute it. So now we have our orange, apple, and cherry. And that's all on Python tutorial part 1. Kindly watch more of our videos on Python tutorial part 2, where we'll dive more into variables, string, function, list, and tumble, and how to write programming. Thank you. Please kindly subscribe, like, and share for more videos. Thank you.